The zodiac seals in the columns of this area have some very special features. Activated by a normal being, they become white and pure, but when activated by a dark entity, they darken. If you combine the seal's colors properly, you may obtain a result that can be very useful for you. To know which color each seal must be, you should check the masks that are beside them. If the mask is telling a lie, you must make the seal dark. Whereas, if it's telling the truth, the seal must be white. There's at least one thing I can assure you. The Mask of Leo is telling the truth.
Little Jonathan Koppel had spent his whole life in his huge mansion without windows. He never lacked anything. He was surrounded by a legion of servants that took care of him with absolute devotion. All of them wore strange masks and acted in a cold and distant way, but took care of him like he was the only thing that mattered in the world. From them, the boy learned the most exquisite manners, and to act like a gentleman of the highest rank. When the young one asked why he was there, his servants always told him that his parents had to go far away, and it was his obligation to wait for them there until they came back. When he learned to read, Jonathan began spending most of his time in the huge library of his house, reading tales and stories that made his imagination fly. He dreamed of fairies, goblins, and fantasy creatures that existed beyond the walls that confined him. But over the years, as he grew older, the mansion seemed to him to grow ever smaller until his home became a prison for him. Finally, the night that he turned 12, he ran away. Why wouldn't he? After all, he could never have imagined that the mansion existed only to protect him. Jonathan couldn't believe how fascinating the outside world was. Vast, green pastures spread between beautiful mountains. Just a few hours ago, he had left the mansion, and all that he saw only increased his attraction to the wondrous outside world. But his greatest surprise was to discover he wasn't alone. There weren't normal people like he expected, but fantastic creatures swarming everywhere, the same kinds which appeared in the tales he read in his library. Both horrible monsters and wonderful beings observed the little one with fascination, and to his surprise, tried to help him. Soon, a legion of creatures began to follow Jonathan, as if they had never seen someone like him before. From them, Jonathan found out that they were in a place called Folklore, the back of a huge creature of vast proportions. The world was changing, and the fantasy was dying. The last fairy tales had taken refuge there, trying to accumulate enough power to survive. But none of them knew why Jonathan was there. In order to find answers, the creatures advised the child to travel to the heart of the mountain, where the Lord of Fantasy was. Jonathan thought it was a great idea. Both guardians have fallen. The seal is broken.
Alarm! Intruders! Heretics!
Any idea what the hell those things are?
I'm guessing there's some kind of protector totems.
They're heavily guarded against magic. We should find a way to climb up there. Let's look around.
Oh my god, that was lame. This keeps up, I'm gonna be a softcover book.
The heart of the mountain was floating in front of him. That huge rock contained folklore's core, a place where the real and the unreal were two sides of the same coin. It was the center of fantasy itself, and to his surprise, the heart spoke. It told him the tale of a crossbred child, half human and half fairy tale. His mother was the greatest witch of her time, the only mortal that the fantasy loved above any other. But a child born of such a union was something that should not exist. His birth would destroy his mother, and fantasy didn't want to lose the woman he loved. The witch understood what was going to happen, and ran away to ensure that the child she was carrying didn't suffer any damage, even if that meant her own demise. She built a great mansion and filled it with soulless homunculi to serve the boy when she was gone. That place was separated from the world, away from fantasy. If she managed to keep the little one there until he became an adult, his supernatural legacy would be erased, and he could be normal. After all, only kids dream. What a story, Jonathan lied to himself, without realizing that he had started to cry.
Shit! You remember what I said to you before about being careful with higher Noth? That's a queen!
How much time had passed? Actually, that didn't matter anymore. The human half of Jonathan allowed him to survive to what was supposed to be the end of the fantasy. In those chaotic days, his father tried to devour him. It was the last thing he did before dying. Perhaps he still hated Jonathan for his mother's death, or maybe he was just trying to absorb the magic inside of him in order to survive. One way or another, the result was, ironically, the opposite. Jonathan absorbed all of the entity's essence, and now he had more power than he could have ever dreamed of. He became the lord of folklore, and thanks to him, all its inhabitants survived. They gave him a new name, the Fairy King.